Oh boy, where do we even begin with
Oh,
Enkanomiya's lore?
for muting and unmuting, I think we're mostly just going to be having people mute and unmute to ask questions and whatnot. Um, unless I'm wrong on that. Um, Staff, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. But
Hello?
hello,
Who's
who's helloing? Is
That
that
was
Leah?
me. I couldn't hear anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, you're good. All right. Are we starting? Yahoo! Oh, we're live. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hi. Welcome
Hi everyone.
to welcome to the Enkanomiya lore stream. Hi. I'm Viv. I'm quote unquote moderating the stream, and today it's gonna be me, and then we also have Leah, and we have Zaura, and we have Cursor. We're gonna be talking about Enkanomiya lore. Super excited. We have on Discord, we have a 2.4 stream links and questions channel under the stream chat. So please drop your questions or tweets or links that you want us to look at in there so that we can see them and they don't get buried. For muting and unmuting, we're going to ask everyone to stay muted. You can ping us to unmute, but it's just going to be the four of us talking for the most part, just so things don't get chaotic because this is a lot of people to have talking at once. Yeah. So, does anyone want to start off talking, or should I start talking about child lore in Enkanomiya?
Begin with child Ajax
Go for it.
Tartaglia.
Go for
Begin
it.
with child Ajax Tartaglia. Okay. First point of the day, I guess, is going to be child's lore in relation to the Abyss because you have me on stream. So,
I mean, honestly, that's related to the main thing I wanted to talk about, so
I guess it's a good segue. So
yeah.
Abyss. Obviously, we know Child went into the Abyss, and that's why he's like that and has no life in his eyes. But so the thing with Child and Enkanomiya is that all of the people from Enkanomiya, their original names before they were like Narukami Islandified, were Greek names. So we have like Avrax, and there's like the Helios, which is like Greek, and the Phaethons, the Sun Children, that's also Greek. So Child's actual original name, spoiler for his character story, is his birth name is Ajax and his brother's name is Teucer. And so Ajax and Teucer are two figures in Greek mythology. Ajax was like a war hero in the Trojan War who met a very tragic end. Um, so Child has this like Greek name and he's been to the abyss, so that's like a little strange. And the other really weird thing about that is in his character story, it talks about how his house and his village is like a seaside village. Like the story is very careful to point out that he grew up in a seaside village. So that got me thinking of like, oh, well, he lives by the ocean, and we know Enkanomiya is like the dark sea, and he's got this Greek name. And his father was a quote unquote like unnamed adventurer. Like we know his father was an adventurer and explorer, but we don't really know what he did or where he went because Child was probably too young to hear like the graphic details of a lot of those stories when he used to hang out with his dad as a kid. So, yeah, I'm thinking that maybe Child has some familial relation to the Abyss or to Enkanomiya, and the reason that he ended up getting like called back to the Abyss as the Abyss does is because his family's from there, and the Abyss was like, reparations for leaving. We're gonna yoink your kid. Mon doesn't have a seaside village. Yeah, Child's from Snezhnaya. He's not from Mondstadt. Lance is just running around Mondstadt, so we can see the man, the myth, the legend himself, Child.
if I may interject, despite not technically being one of the four here, I think another interesting possibility of this is just that because Child was named after, well, Ajax was named after a hero from his father's stories, right?
Yeah.
So that also implies that there have been stories that have been passed down since the unified Teyvat period, if that makes any sense, which I honestly find quite interesting. Because
Yeah,
it opens up
that's
quite a number of possibilities, especially with Celestia trying to, or at least like what we can assume is Celestia trying to cover up the origins and what seems to be stuff from before the Second Throne's arrival, possibly.
yeah, no, there's definitely the possibility of legends being passed down, especially because Ajax is a mythical figure in Greek legends. So that would kind of actually really make sense for it to be a mythical figure that his dad knew about if he was, related or closely related or aware of the bloodline. What do you think about the abandoned weapons in Enkanomiya and how similar they are to Tartaglia's Hydra weapons? Yes, I love this. I didn't actually realize it at first because I was too busy running around beating things up as child mains do. But personally, I think that the weapons in Enkanomiya do look very similar to the weapons he uses as Hydra weapons, which I think also could tie back to like Skirk and how like Skirk taught him to fight. So maybe his weapons are modeled after whatever weapons she was using because like that's what a weapon looks like in his head. Just throwing theories out there.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi. My
Yeah, I was
my
gonna say one of
computer.
you had something connected, right?
Yeah. First of all, sorry. My computer will not turn back on now. So that's
Oh dear.
great. So I switched to my phone, which means I'm using my earbuds now. So sorry about that.
It's your audio is pretty good. You should be fine.
All right. Oh god, I'm gonna have a harder time focusing now. But yeah, I don't know. I just have a lot of thoughts about like the Enkanomiya and the Abyss and all the Greek stuff that I'm trying to organize in my head right now. Yeah, Child is like the biggest connecting factor there, I guess. But what just fell? Okay. Anyways. Oh god, what was I gonna say?
Child, Abyss, Greek names.
Yes. And it also ties into like just like this idea of the Abyss as the underworld, which is something that Ashikai has actually talked about in some videos. But yeah, like how they have like the river Styx in Enkanomiya, and it's just straight up called the river Styx and stuff.
What I think is like
Yeah.
one of the most interesting things from Enkanomiya lore is that we got such like clear information on Khaenri'ah. And it's like we know that these two civilizations, like in their prime, like existed side by side. And
Yeah.
we have like researchers who worked on the Vishavs, like literally commenting on Khaenri'ah and all this stuff. And it's like it gives you like a really good sense of the timeline, I think, while also not clearing anything up at all because it gives you like a million more questions. But
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that they don't really seem to get along with each other either. I think that's interesting. And I think Enkanomiya also did a really good job of portraying like the horrors of Khaenri'ah and the sort of underworld because I think we tend to think of them as like, oh, this civilization was wiped out and they didn't deserve it. And like obviously they didn't deserve total annihilation, but I think this shows that they were also kind of doing some shady stuff. They weren't exactly up to the best of children intentions with their child sacrificing and stealing research notes and trying maybe to publicize information that could threaten the entirety of Teyvat, which is really interesting.
The whole thing
Yeah.
too is
ties
like
into the morally gray theme of entirety of Genshin Impact. Because it's like we already have this. I think most fans have this idea in their heads that like Celestia is evil for destroying Khaenri'ah, and Khaenri'ah was just a godless nation trying to get on with its life. But it's not really like that because like the stuff with Enkanomiya has helped us contextualize that maybe Celestia is not exactly good, but Khaenri'ah wasn't exactly the best, most morally upright either.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that I love the theme of morally gray researchers we're getting in Genshin, like how we have like Alice and like Ryan here who are like definitely not up to the most morally upstanding of activities in their free time.
Yeah, wasn't it like Alice who wrote in the
Albedo.
Teyvat travel guide that
Yeah.
she did like the perpetual Hillytron motion machine?
Yeah, and she like bombed Storm Terror's lair.
Another interesting thing to think about is that like I feel like Enkanomiya is like the first real place that's like obviously an underground ancient ruined civilization, right? But it's not Khaenri'ah. It's like a very clear thing we learned. And I feel like for a while it was like kind of felt like Khaenri'ah was like everywhere underground. And there wasn't really
Yeah.
like a lot of like clear, like unambiguous distinctions between like so is it just one civilization that, went through this cataclysm, or is it like multiple? And now it's like it's really, really clear that like underground is just probably like piled up ancient civilizations that were like destroyed by Celestia. And it's just like the cycle of the world. It's like really dark to think about, but
Yeah, that like
Yeah.
Khaenri'ah was probably. I think I've seen jokes about like the Teyvat having layers. You have like the surface Teyvat, and you have the underground Teyvat. I think that might be a little more accurate than we think that Khaenri'ah might just be one of many nations that exist below the surface, which also opens up the possibility that there could be a below the ground, advanced nation that's still alive. Which I
that's
think would
interesting to think
be
about.
really cool to see. But that might kind of be wishful thinking.
No, but I mean, like, think about it. So, like, Ryan Daughter, right? She created Albedo after the cataclysm, but like she lost
Yeah.
control during the cataclysm. So how was she still alive to do her research? Because, I mean, this is just like a theory, right? But after what we learned about Enkanomiya, like, I'm really led to think that something similar happened to her that happened to Orobashi, where like she didn't just like attack Mondstadt, right? I feel like maybe she like literally lost control of herself.
Yeah, I
So
saw.
really interesting. She's alive.
Oh my god, I don't know where the tweet is. I'll see if I can find it. I saw a tweet that was
Might have been
talking
mine.
about Durin under the same concept. Like maybe Durin didn't want to attack Mondstadt, but like the knowledge drove him insane. Which I thought was really interesting. Like maybe it's
Wait.
not the abyssal power that corrupted Durin, and the abyssal power that corrupts things is not just a magical entity, but it's some kind of knowledge as well.
I want to find this. Hang on, because I know lore text I could just read that talks about this. Festering desire.
Yeah, it was like one of the lore texts mentions like from Durin's point of view, it's like, oh, the beautiful blue jeweled dragon of Mondstadt. And it's like it was like really friendly towards the Valen,
Yeah,
and then Durin wakes up with his like fangs.
I remember when Dragonspine lore was first releasing and everyone was like, oh my god, Durin was just gay for Nepal.
Yeah, it's Festering Desires lore that talks about, it has both Ryandaught's thoughts when she created Durian, and then also what Durian said in response to Ryandaughtr. And it's like, there really is this implication that both Durian and Ryandaughtr like lost control, and it was more about like negative emotions and like knowledge or something that drove the attack. I could read it if you want, but it's up to you guys.
Yeah. There's also no, go with your thing and I'll follow up. Go with your thing.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the lore from Festering Desire. We like mute Genshin so Venti stops talking in my ear. Okay. This was a story from long ago. And then this is from Ryandaught's perspective. Unborn life, unfulfilled wishes, tragic dreams at the edge of the universe, darkness that could never come true. Indwell my body and descend unto this world. Then, my lovely children, like rainwater flowing into creeks, and plants growing towards the sun, go unto a lovely place and display your own beauty there with pride. And then it goes on to say, this is a memory that a child named Durian had of his mother. Thank you, mother, thank you. You gave me wings to soar in a mighty form. Mother, I wish to go to a land of lovely songs. I will tell them about you, mother, and about everyone else. I shall tell them that the place where I was born is beautiful. So
That's
yeah,
so
there's not-
sad.
It is.
Sad Durian's lore is. Yeah. That the place that was born was beautiful implies that there's something underground that maybe isn't completely destroyed, because I don't think a ruined city would classify as beautiful.
And also, like, wait, you can go on if you want.
Oh, I was just about to say, like, the line, thank you, mother, thank you. You gave me wings to soar in a mighty form. Like, I don't know, but to me, that implies that Durin at least didn't have, like, Durin could have had an incorporeal form, like, maybe a kind of soul form before Durin became a dragon or something.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. The other thing
but
I wanted to bring up with Durin and that stuff real quickly. Where is the links channel? Hello. Technical difficulties. My bad. I wanted to bring up this tweet about Alice and Edisu and how Eris is like Narukamiya sized into Arisu in the appendix at the end of the Enkanomiya text, but Arisu is typically accepted as Alice rather than Eris.
Yeah,
Is Ryandaughtr human? As far as we know, yes. I don't think we really have any information pointing in either direction, but like given that she like she was a citizen of Khaenri'ah at one point, I'm gonna say yes, she probably was human. I don't know if she still is, but at one point, I think she originally was. Oh no, Leah. We lost Leah. Okay.
Oh no.
Cursor or Zaura, do you want to add anything on Albedo, Enkanomiya, Alice, Underworld, connecting all of that fun stuff?
There's a lot.
There is a little bit to add to the Alice Eris thing, which is that, first of all, Eris is a goddess of chaos, which Alice is extremely chaotic, as we know.
Yeah.
Miss, I'm going to explode the ruins so they're easier to navigate.
Yeah.
But then also, like, I don't remember who specifically pointed this out. I think I saw it on Twitter, but like, Eris, one thing she is specifically associated with in Greek mythology is the golden apple of discord.
Yep.
And the first time we ever, like, actually encountered Alice in any capacity was on the Golden Apple Archipelago.
Yeah, and she brought us to the Golden Apple Archipelago as well, which is
Yeah. I miss the Golden Apple Archipelago.
that was a simpler time.
It really
And even
was.
the Golden Apple Archipelago kind of seems like a like an in-between realm, because it wasn't like Surface Teyvat. Like, it was weird. It wasn't Surface Teyvat, but it wasn't the Abyss either. It was like a zone in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, that reminded me of another, like, Enkanomiya Abyss connection I wanted to make, which was Enkanomiya just looks like a huge domain.
Yeah, it
Like,
does.
You enter it through the door.
Like, no, like the floating islands with absolutely nothing under them, the waterfalls going into nowhere, the, like, geometrically broken parts that are floating outward infinitely. It's
Yeah,
like,
it feels like
this is literally just a giant domain. This is the architecture of a domain.
yeah.
I mean, it
No,
kind
I
of
agree.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense to me because I remember it mentions in the Baptismal Vishap experimental records where is Enkanomiya is like there's like 3 realms, the Vishap realm and like hold on, I can't remember which each of the realms were called, but they're like 3
Possibly
realms
hell.
and Enkanomiya is suspended between 2 of them. So it makes me feel
Yeah.
that like domains and by extension even the Golden Apple Archipelago could also be the same sort of like suspension between realms.
Yeah, and we know that, like, the domains and such, they're all altars. Like, the tiara artifacts, like the prayers for winter, prayers for spring, the circlets, talk about these priests with these white branch tiaras going into the earth to seek answers. So we know that we know Enkanomiya is underground, and we also know that the domains are underground. So I think that sort of connects them to being on the same layer. We might have a layer even further beneath that could be like the true abyss. Teyvat is an onion. It has layers.
Oh my god, you did not just say
Oh,
that.
If I may just quickly add on a couple of things. I'm sorry, I'm trying so hard not to like hijack anything at the moment.
Go ahead.
This is just clarifying about the 3 realms, but Enkanomiya was said to be situated between 3 realms, which were the light/elemental/bishop realm, since they were like primordial creatures. Then you had the abyssal realm, and then you had the human realm, which seems to have included gods like Orobashi.
Yeah. Well, there was
Interestingly enough.
a time where humans and gods were sort of together more.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the Tiara set, right? They used to walk the earth together.
Yeah, I'm trying to dig up the tiara set in my little tiny phone archive right now to figure it out. They say once upon a time the people of the land could hear revelations from the heavens directly. The envoys of the gods walked among the benighted humanity then. That is from Tiara Flames. So there was a time where gods and humans sort of lived amongst each other.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of gods and humans living together, actually, the way it feels like light/Vishap/elemental realm kind of reminds me of Ajdaha or Ajdaha. I'm not sure how you say it, but because he's like the king of all Vishaps, even over the primordial Vishap. So it makes me think that like, and the way Zhongli dug Ajdaha out of the earth, it kind of feels like Ageha could be a being that belongs to this light or Vishap realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
So even more ancient than Zhongli.
the Vishaps, whether they're in Enkanomiya or they're in Liyue, they have the same like drops. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that
And
they have the same name too.
And the whole
Mhm.
point of the Bishop experiments is that they were trying to test how Vishaps would respond to different conditions and noted like, oh, if they're cold, they pick up cryo. If they're in water, they stay hydro. So these Vishaps that ended up being buried under the earth in Liyue, which is, as we know, the land of Geo, probably came to have the Geo element because of their ability to like sort of absorb the elements.
Mm-hmm.
Also might be why we still see like the Primo Geovishap and the Geovishaps and Ajdaha that are all able to use other elements that could be like traces of other elements that were in the land or left over from the elemental form they were in before they sort of like absorbed that geo power.
I think in that case it might be like just because Geo is not a very reactive element, so it makes them stable enough to temporarily absorb other elements too.
Yeah. Oh, okay, from the Twitch chat, do you think that the whole of Teyvat was destroyed at one point and then again rebuilt? Yes. Personally, I do because of it's somewhere in the Enkanomiya books. Hold up, let me find it. When the eternal throne of heavens came, the world was made anew. But we know that time in Teyvat is both unending and cyclical. So there might have been some form of Teyvat that existed under these 7 sovereigns that was completely wiped out by the primordial one, because we know that the primordial one, when they came to Teyvat, had to recreate the mountains and the rivers and the animals and the humans. So I think it's possible that like a very, very long time ago there was a Teyvat under the seven sovereigns, which is like the 7 Geovishaps or something, or Vishaps, that was whooped out by the primordial one.
I think it's also worth noting that like even on like a more like basic scale, that just like the order of the 7 like archons coming into power is probably like, you know, a lot of gods died or were pushed out. So just that is like a whole restructuring in itself, right? And each of them, I mean, we have evidence for at least the first 3 archons we've met completely like reshaping their region in some way. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say like a total destruction, probably, but like the Teyvat of today is very, very, very different from the Teyvat of like a few thousand years ago.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is we don't know how long ago this all happened, because the oldest creature being that we know about is Zhongli, and the only thing we know about Zhongli is that he's like at least 6,000 years old. I think that's kind of like a common misconception. People think he's 6,000 years old, but no, we just know that he was around 6,000 years ago, but we don't know if he was around before that. So we don't actually know how old Zhongli is. He could be older than 6,000. So
Grandpa
that
won't tell us how old he is.
implies that Teyvat is at least 6,000 years old, but honestly, it's probably more than that.
Yeah.
It gets blurry the farther back you go with like Thanes and the primordial one and the second coming, whatever that is. It's like there's no given time frame, at least not that I can remember offhand. So 6,000 years
Yeah,
really
no.
is the only like the oldest thing we have.
Yeah, I mean, a rough timeline, we know that Enkanomiya went up to the surface during the Archon War, but before Khaenri'ah was destroyed. And then we know Enkanomiya existed for a time period before that, and then we know that it took a few years for Enkanomiya to fall. Then we know that there were 400 years before that where the Primordial One was making the land. And that's all we really know. There's not an exact timeline. Speaking of the Primordial One, I'm just going to throw this in here really quickly because I figured it out the other day. Quote unquote figured it out. Nothing in Genshin is concrete. And I got super excited about it. Is that the domain mural in all of the domains could be Fane's and the Primordial One because it's described as this androgynous being that has 4 shades and a crown and wings. And I'm trying to find the stream channel where I could put my little image. I'll put it in the links and questions so I don't like lose it in the stream chat.
Yeah, I saw that post and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes some sense.
Here is my diagram.
When I hear 4 shades, I think of the 4 seasons / 4 winds / 4 cardinal directions.
Yeah, I
Immediately
thought one of the shades could have been the god of time because of it talks about the Primordial One has four shades, and then once Enkanomiya falls, it talks about the Primordial One and it's 3 shining shades. So it's like, okay, what happened to the other one? And then it says something later on about like we knew the only one who had not abandoned us to be the god of time, Kairos. So like I personally I think that points in the direction of Kairos and Enkanomiya god being one of the shades, but that's also theorization.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense.
Venti's a god of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Leah, I know you have things to say on Venti and time and wind.
Illuminati confirmed. Thank you, Roxanne.
Yeah, go tell us about Venti and the 1,000 winds and time and wind, please.
Oh no. I don't even know like where to start. Like how do you just like say that? Well, I would say the book that everyone should probably read, especially in the context of the Byakuya Koku collection, talking about the goddess of time, Kairos, being like the measure of 1,000 winds, is the Catalyst Sacrificial Fragments, because I feel like this is like the most like damning piece of evidence there is for like wind equaling time in some sense. And I don't know if I want to read the whole thing out loud right now, but I would definitely say go read Sacrificial Fragments.
I was gonna say, is there a section that you want to read or a summary?
I have to get it up. I never got it up before, so I'm like, let's see.
Yeah, because I actually haven't read it myself.
Well, here we go. I pulled it up.
I pulled it up too. I got it.
Oh wow, yeah, I see.
Okay.
Go? No, you can do it.
I was just gonna say the description itself even says that it was eroded by the winds of time, and like this phrase, like winds of time, like appears everywhere. I feel like it's mentioned in every region. It just never goes away. It's like this narrative motif that just like haunts me. Anyway, so basically it talks about how there was a group that could bear the cold no more. They built the shrine in the east of Mondstadt, like a long time ago during the Archon War, when Andreas and Decarabian were like fighting, and there's like blizzards everywhere. And I'm pretty sure that this group was actually the Gunhilder clan. But that aside, the Catalyst basically says that they pray to both the time and the wind, but like people nowadays in Mondstadt think that they only pray to the wind. like they have gotten like they've lost this sense of like there is a time god. Like it's completely like erased from Mondstadt's lore that there was like a god of time. And so it's like this huge misunderstanding that the winds of time erased itself. But yeah. Let me find the passage specifically.
There's also the fact that, and this is a little dark maybe, all of the nations have something that connects them to the Dark Sea or the Abyss. So Inazuma had Urabashi, Liyue had Osail and Agedaha, and Mondstadt had the god of time. But the thing here is that we know that the Elector Archon killed the connection, as in killing Urabashi, and we know that the Geo Archon killed or sealed away both Agedaha and Osail. So if we're following that trend of logic, it could serve to stand that Venti killed the god of time.
It's interesting you say that because in Skyward Atlas, I have to pull that up now. I'm just like going back and forth between things. The histories of the Thousand Winds were not lost, for Barbados still holds them. So like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, Venti lore.
Venti truly the most sus character in all of Genshin, except maybe behind Paimon.
What does it mean for Venti to like support the traveler with the power of like 1,000 winds? Like what does that mean? If the goddess of time is a measurement of the 1,000 winds, and Venti holds the histories of the 1,000 winds and can use their powers to support other people and like sing to them and like rally them and whatever. What does that mean? It's like anyway.
Also, I saw a comment in the chat earlier about how it's actually pronounced Kairos, not Kairos. Thank you for pointing that out. I did not know that.
Yeah,
so
thank you. Thank you.
There's this one tweet. Do I have it in my links? I do have it in my links. Oh my gosh. Okay, I will put this in the links channel. It says, "Now I'm convinced the trick Venti used to fix the Holy Lyre was reversing time, and the reason he said it won't hold forever is because as the lyre progresses through time, it will eventually reach a stage where it's broken again." Which is this tweet here. Not my thoughts, but I think that's a really cool theory.
I mean,
wait, what was it again?
If
it's in the stream links chat, it's a tweet.
Because if Venti did kill the god of time, then it would be kind of interesting if Venti also inherited powers, and therefore that's how he uses it here, and like lifting us up in the initial Storm Terror battle as well.
Yeah.
If Venti and the god of time were really good friends, and then Venti took the image of a really good friend,
I mean,
then could Nameless Bard?
I think the only thing that falls flat there is like if the Nameless Bard was this all-powerful god of time, why would they not just like yeet Decarabian? Like I feel like there's a logical fallacy there.
I actually feel like because in Vera's Melancholy there was like a character that actually matches the Nameless Bard's description called Ike.
Yeah.
And he was powerful, but in the sense that he was like very wise and like kind. But he called himself an echo of time, and it's like I feel like maybe it's like a more supportive character like Venti is. Because like Venti can't really like fight anyone directly, but that's not like his style either. So
I almost wonder if it's like a situation kind of similar to like with Khaenri'ah, where it's like the god of time was gentle, too gentle.
Yeah, that's true.
And so like they passed their power on to Venti somehow, and then maybe they died, maybe they just became immortal. I don't know how any of this works.
Okay, I'm just looking at the questions. I'll do the second one first, since I think that's easy to answer. We don't have much information about Kairos, but where is she right now? Disappearing, dead, hiding. Since we shouldn't call her by her real name, is she really hiding away from Celestia, or like the second one? I think I think she's dead. I don't think the God of Time is alive anymore, but
yeah.
other thoughts?
Yeah, same.
I mean, it's not that you can truly vanquish a god of time, because if a god's domain is time, and if the universe exists, there must be time. Therefore, the god's domain will always exist. So logically, the idea is that even if the god of time dies, there should always be something watching over at least the element of time, or at least that's how I see it.
I just remembered another theory about the god of time that this is actually a perfect segue into, if you guys want to hear it.
Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
So maybe the goddess of time is the ley lines themselves, because I feel like there's kinds of a sense in the Byakuyakoku collection that talks about the goddess of time, like not only like being the measure of 1,000 winds, but like being every moment. And if there's something that is like that could be considered like the god of moments, like omnipresent, omniscient sort of thing, would be the ley lines themselves, because they're everywhere. They're like at the core of this like world building, right? And then also, if you think about Venti's like connections to wind and time and such, in his demo, there was the line that's like born from the branches of time. So instead of Venti being the god of time, Venti could be a fragment of the god of time.
Oh, and maybe that's why he's one wind instead of the 1,000 winds.
And then wind flows through the tree anyway.
Simply bring
That's
something
another idea.
up.
Yeah.
There was that one riddle book from the collection, right? And it mentioned that there was this one riddle in particular that was forbidden by Orobashi, and we know that he's forbidden stuff that is usually too close to the truth, as noted with the whole sacrificing himself aspect. Basically,
God, why did I skip taking notes on that one?
If I remember correctly, the riddle went something along the lines of a father, which is the year, has 12 daughters, who are the months. Each daughter has 60 children, so 30 days and 30 nights. And there was apparently a second half to this riddle, which went that time would constantly divide itself, like gradually progressing, until at one point all the descendants simultaneously gave birth to a single entity, which would be Kairos, who would also somehow be the mother of 14 billion years.
Coincidentally, or maybe not, 14 billion years is approximately the time that our universe in the real world has existed. It's closer to like 13.8 billion years, but you get the idea.
It's kind of dialectical when you think about it. It's really interesting to think about. It's like the way I interpreted that riddle is like, no matter how much you break down like a section of time, it's still going to be time in the end. So like a year is time, a day is time, 1 second is still time. It's all time.
Yeah,
and then
it
all
seems
of it
like
collectively.
time is the constant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two more questions in the stream chat. I think we could answer the second one quickly. Did Celestia order Orobashi to sacrifice himself, or did Celestia order A to kill him? Orobashi basically, if I'm getting my lore correctly, kind of lost it after gaining the real knowledge through Celestia's guidance. And Celestia sent him in the direction of Inazuma, knowing that A would kill any threat to her nation. So she was not ordered to kill him. And then, hi, I was wondering if the person talking to Dainsleif in his official introduction card could be the god of time. Discuss.
Wait. Can I
God,
say
I
something
don't-
about
I
the
don't
last one
remember.
before we move on from it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, sorry. So, remember like the world quest, the subterranean trials of Drake and Serpent? Like they were talking about like the transgressions and the sins that Orobashi took on. I think basically Orobashi took the fall for like everything.
Yeah, I
to
agree.
spare like
Yeah.
the people he came in
Yeah,
contact with.
I don't think Orobashi like lost it. The way I interpreted everything was that like he learned something he wasn't supposed to, and Celestia was like, "Okay, you have to die now."
Yeah,
And
that's
so he basically committed like suicide by Shogun.
He got
Yeah.
striked for NDA. Okay, that was all I wanted to say.
Can I add one thing? Is that it's like it's kind of debatable to me that whether Orobashi actually was of like sound mind making the decision to go east and invade Yashiori Island, because it feels like it could also be Celestia manipulating like fate and constellations and stuff. Because
yeah.
like fate is a
Well-
really weird thing, but if constellations are all in the sky and vision characters all have constellations, if Celestia controls the constellations, that'd be like a motive for them to give visions to people so that it can be controlled and have a predetermined fate. And that could also be long tangent. Yeah, like so if
Yeah.
they use Orobashi's constellation to control him, he would no free will, he dies.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there was another lore book that talked about like they don't know why Orobashi like invaded Yashiori Island, but they do know that there was like
I am
the people of
so
Watatsumi were talking about a famine. So and like wanting
Okay.
Orobashi to like do something about it. So there's that as well.
Yeah. On the topic of constellations, I sorry, I'm looking for a specific image. This is from an academic paper, so let me make sure I have the correct citation. In the 1969 article Time, Times, and the Right Time, Kronos and Kairos by John E. Smith, he talks about, and this is a direct quotation from this article, Kairos is therefore particularly relevant to historical action and historical inquiry because it points to the significance and purpose of events and to the idea of constellations of events yielding results which would not have happened under other circumstances. So like I don't know if the MiHoYo developers read this paper or something, but I think that the connection between Kairos and the quote unquote constellation of an event is interesting, that maybe not just people have events, but also events or things that cause big changes have like a sort of constellation.
That's so like on point. Also, someone's asking for a link to the article in stream chat, babe.
Oh my gosh. Okay. It is a JSTOR article. So you need like an academic login to actually access it. Let me make sure I'm not doxing myself with my school login. I am. That's not good.
No.
Let me get you a copy of this link that doesn't have my university name in it, because yeah. One moment. Okay. In the Twitch chat, you said?
University of Teyvat Lore. Oh no, in the stream chat.
Ah, I put it into
So
Twitch.
the
Okay.
Discord.
I'll put
It's
it in the
okay, it's
links.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. What else? I know there's a
yeah,
lot to
Lord
talk
Wishiru.
about.
Hi.
So what else?
There's that one question that we were gonna go back to, right?
Yeah,
the one
something about Dainsleif.
Yeah, I was wondering if the
I have
person talking
things
to
to say.
Dainsleif in his official introduction could be the god of time, and then someone else also brought it up, maybe being Piero as well.
I
don't remember what is on Dainsleif's
you.
intro card.
Can I read it?
got you.
I have
Yeah, go ahead.
so much to say about this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
The confluence
Oh, wait.
between the past and future. The original calamity has been overturned, yet the island in the sky set the earth to burn. Chalk pursues gold in this time inopportune. The eclipse is swallowed by the crimson moon. The future must atone for bygone mistakes, as the bond familiar falters and breaks. Of the same blood, elders in the youth. Such is the cycle of the world, in truth. Dane, what is that strand of blonde hair to you? Someone you must kill, or the object of your penitence? A self-proclaimed prophet.
I think it's Venti.
I
I sound
think
like a broken record.
not Piero. Maybe Kairos? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Piero is not worldly enough. Like, we know Piero might be from Khaenri'ah, but I don't think Piero is worldly enough, nor would have the connection to Dainsleif.
Yeah, he's just kind of doing his own thing.
So
I have a lot of thoughts about Piero, but none of them are related to Dainsleif. Hi, I'm very interested in Fatui lore.
OMG, me too. Oh my god,
Although,
every time
so much to say
this.
about this specific thing. So I don't know.
But like talking about like Dainsleif and connections to time and stuff, there's the fact that, you know, his constellation is in Ouroboros, and now we have mentions of Ouroboros in lore. So that's fun.
We do. Somebody asked me about this on Twitter a while ago, so I'm just gonna set the record straight right now. Dainsleif's constellation is listed on his introduction card in Chinese as "quote unquote" snake ring constellation. Ouroboros is a Norse mythology figure that is basically a snake eating its own tail, and if it is to let go of its own tail, Ragnarok will begin. So,
yes, and Dainsleif's name comes from Norse mythology. So
yeah.
So about the prophet in Dainsleif's character card, the reason why I think it's Venti is, I mean, okay, so not only do they like talk the same, but the thing is, there is this voice line that Albedo, Venti, and Dainsleif in like dubs that are not English, so in Chinese and Japanese, they are word for word the same exact line. So they're referencing the same thing, which means that there is some source for it. And it's about Rhine-Daughter's I don't know how you pronounce it, but her alchemy technique.
Okay,
Khaenri'ah?
Khaenri'ah?
Yes, I'm too excited, so I'm like my brain's going like 1,000 miles a minute, but I really think it's Venti.
And there's also
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
There's also with just with Dainsleif, like a quick side note that I think about a lot. So in I think it's in the English version. It says like Dainsleif didn't protect Khaenri'ah, but then the original text it implies that he was like physically unable to, like there was something physically stopping him from protecting Khaenri'ah. So I wonder if like Dainsleif and the Ouroboros, there's something that like the Dainsleif being able to not protect Khaenri'ah is equated to the Ouroboros letting go of its tail and being unable to grab it. Like something happened, and once it happened, there was no going back, which I think is like interesting comparing the Ouroboros to Dainsleif's story within Khaenri'ah.
Yeah.
I also have another interpretation about Thanesleaf and Ouroboros, which is the life or civilization in Teyvat is cyclical. So I was wondering if Thanesleaf failing to protect Khaenri'ah is somehow related to cyclical destruction by Celestia or everything else, and therefore it's symbolic of the Ouroboros, where the Ouroboros just endlessly chases its own tail.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm reading the links and questions chat. How did Celestia find out that Urabashi even read the book?
I think Celestia has eyes on everything.
Yeah, I also think Celestia is just looking constantly.
Possibly interject again.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like there's a real question.
There was that one line saying that Urabashi was sentenced, right? Or at least Watatsumi, but from his various monikers, we do know that Urabashi was sometimes simply referred to as just Watatsumi. And this is kind of in relation to the whole sacrificing himself for everyone's sins things mentioned earlier. But like, I do believe that they mentioned something along the lines of 8 counts of it was like 4 counts of profanity and 8 counts of deceiving the living, which is also interesting because when that Enkanomiyan child found him, he allegedly called himself the profane serpent because he did not receive the names Urabashi or Watatsumi or Omikami before Enkanomiya, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just kind of a snake god that was like chilling in the abyss, and then someone found it was like, "Hey, be our god," and he was like, "Sure, I guess." Which is like a really funny way to get a god. Like instead of the god creating you, you create the god, which is so strange and Genshin lore. But
honestly,
yeah.
like I could talk on and on about it, but I'll keep it short for the sake of the stream. He didn't actually really have any obligation to help that child if you think about it. Like, it wouldn't have benefited him either way, but he was truly a benevolent god who decided to help this child anyway, just because this child happened to be human and asked.
Yeah, I know. I think it is interesting that ultimately Urabashi was a benevolent god, and I think maybe him, like being willing to sacrifice himself, quote unquote, is like another sign of that benevolence. Like it might have either been him or his people, and he chose the people over him.
And given from what we've seen of Celestia, that kind of ultimatum seems likely to have happened.
It checks.
Also, I have like no evidence for this, but I do believe that Celestia may have forced Orobashi's metaphorical hand into actually taking action, because this is something I noticed when preliminary study of Sangonomiya folk belief was first released in I think it was around 2.1 or 2.2, I can't remember, but it was mentioned that at the time Watatsumi was suffering from heavy famine and disease, and that Watatsumi is struggling to grow due to the lack of fertility in the soil. They are still able to function in current modernish Teyvatian society. So I have no evidence for this besides just like Celestia casually yeeting a couple of civilizations, but this is just some food for thought. What if Celestia were the ones responsible for said famine and disease? Because Urabashi knew his time was limited, but he was hesitant to go ahead with the plan.
Yeah, I could.
I'd buy that.
I think
I buy it.
A lot of unnatural tragedy in Genshin sort of comes back to Celestia just being power. Like, we know Celestia is a group of power-hungry aliens. And there's also this really interesting connection to Vera's melancholy.
My favorite.
So
Pharaoh's Melancholy.
Vera's Melancholy. I'll keep this short because that book is a trip. And so Vera's Melancholy, the opening passage talks about Vera being with her friend, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so bored," and it's like they're in their hometown village. Cat of they're in their hometown village of Delphi. And we know that the Serpent's Heart area of Enkanomiya was once called Delphi. That's in one of the books talking about the different islands of Enkanomiya. So, I think it was actually Leah and I were talking about how the Vera's Melancholy might take place before Enkanomiya fell, or it might be a tale of from before Enkanomiya fell, and then you have this like Andromeda Empire that could be a synonym for Celestia, who are just these like insane, power hungry alien invaders, and the people are like, "Well, you already have so much power. Why do you want us?" And they're like, "Because we can." So I think Celestia might just be like it's just fun for them to just take control of stuff and kill people.
Celestia is literally they're just colonists.
They are.
I mean, it also checks out that the Andromeda Galaxy, like relative to us, I think is the closest galaxy to the Milky Way. So I don't know if that represents anything on like the world tree or like the larger lore connections to Honkai, but yeah, there's something there.
Sea of Quanta.
Yeah. I asked if it was okay if I believe that Kairos is alive and hiding in the abyss. Yes, believe whatever you want. We are all here to theorize and have different ideas. Believe whatever the heck you want. That's what makes Genshin fun.
So going back to Vera's Melancholy, I just want to say, if you have the name card Achievement Traversal, you get the same card from completing all the achievements under Mortal Travails Series 2. And Mortal Travails, if you don't know, is like an achievement series that has to do with like the traveler's journey itself. So for example, the one on this one is, the description on this one is, the traveler shall experience 10,000 tales, and each shall form a part of the traveler's soul. Anyway, the icon or the symbolism on the name card is specifically the same symbol, like the same exact symbol that's on Vera's Melancholy's cover. And it requires Vera's Melancholy like to collect all of it to complete it. So
That's interesting.
Vera's Melancholy is important to Inazuma. So I don't think it's a coincidence that we got Enkanomiya with Inazuma. I just want to say that.
If the lectors can turn to human appearance at will, why are they lectors and heralds? I think it was like a temporary transformation. I don't think. I think it's like a like how like Child's Foul Legacy like drains his energy. He can't maintain it. I think it's like that for the lectors and the heralds.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Were the Khaenri'ahs human at first? Yes. Khaenri'ahs are humans who were cursed into their abyssal forms by Celestia. And the elemental manipulation is done through the manipulation of ley lines rather than the use of a vision. Yeah,
I think so.
Because they drop ley lines. I know that the abyss mages use the ley lines, so I would assume that the heralds and lectors and such also use ley lines because they have the same drops.
Yeah, so basically Celestia
I was so mad the first time Sorry, I was just gonna
It's okay.
bitch about gameplay stuff. I was just like, I was so mad the first time I beat like an abyss lector in the overworld and it just dropped the ley line branches.
Yeah.
I was like, you're such a pain in the butt to fight and this is all you drop? I hate you.
But
yeah, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, Leah, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I was just gonna say I'm pretty sure Celestia is monopolizing the same exact like methods of like using elemental energy that like anyone else can use, like with the vision, or like any gods can use with like their innate abilities or whatever. Like I'm pretty sure it's the same exact thing. They're just like controlling it. So
Yeah.
it's all ley lines.
I wonder if Celestia has anything to do with the Travelers' destroyed homeworld. I could see that being a possibility.
Yeah,
There's also
I see it.
a little bit of evidence to suggest that the Travelers' destroyed homeworld could have been a previous iteration of Teyvat, or Teyvat a long time ago, because the Travelers have symbolism on them that relates them back to Teyvat that wouldn't make sense for them to have if they didn't have a pre-existing connection, such as like the Primogem symbol on Lumine's dress. Which, like,
Yeah.
I go back and forth as to whether or not I think they're originally from Teyvat and they were part of like the Moon Sister civilization, or if they were from a world that was closely related to Teyvat. But I think Celestia and the Travelers' quote-unquote homeworld in Teyvat are all very much intertwined with each other.
Maybe the Traveler's homeworld. Like, I remember when we first see like a cutscene of the Abyss Twin, the Abyss Mage pops in and says, "Don't worry, Your Highness, your homeland shall return to this world," or something. And it just makes me think
Yeah,
that
I just rewatched that cutscene recently, actually, and I was like, wait, oh my god, what? God, what was the quote? It was like,
I haven't seen it. I'm actually going to pull it up on YouTube and watch it right now.
God, it was like, when your homeland returns to this world, we will rejoice, or something along those lines.
And actually, that brings me to think, if the homeland return, like the Abyss Order is like dead set against fighting against Celestia, and their goal is to like topple Celestia's thrones and return the Abyss Twins' homeland to this world. That would lend credence to the theory that their homeland is a previous iteration of Teyvat. For example, either before the Primordial One came, so like the Seven Dragon Sovereigns, or after the Primordial One came, but before the Second Coming, which was presumably Celestia.
Yeah, I definitely think the Second Coming is Celestia.
I think one interesting thing to think about in terms of like all the lore from the Byakuya Koku collection is that it was still written by humans. So it's like written as this like creation myth, and we don't know how much of it is like unreliable narration still.
Yeah.
It's interesting to
Yes,
think
that
about.
was the line. Thank you,
Yeah, when your
Deci,
homeland
Deki,
returns,
I don't know how to say your name, but
when your
thank you
homeland
in the
returns
chat.
to
It's
this world, we will revel
we
in
will
its
revel
glory.
in its glory. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
Yes.
interesting that when you watch the cutscene, it shows Dvalin flying overhead first. Which, I mean, we know the Abyss Twin is watching everything, but I think it's interesting that they chose to show Dvalin and make Dvalin a part of that scene.
It is interesting to think about.
No, you go on.
I was just saying that.
What could be the major cause for the cataclysm, and is it possible that the sibling was in the war between Phanes and the second one instead of the cataclysm? The war between Phanes and the second one was not concurrent with the cataclysm. So it's possible they could have been in both. Major cause for the cataclysm is a whole can of worms. Where should we start with that?
Yeah.
Is it Khaenri'ah's fault or is it Celestia's fault?
It's chicken and egg.
Yeah. As for like the Abyss Twin being involved in the cataclysm, I mean, we do see in the "We Will Be Reunited" trailer, Lumine looking out over like what we now know for certain is the cataclysm, because it's the same exact scene that we see when we see the cutscene about A and Makoto, when they show Makoto's death. So
Yeah. I lost the channel. Yeah, the cataclysm is sort of like, we know that Khaenri'ah was doing suspicious at best experiments, and they were like trying to like either overthrow the gods or prove that gods weren't needed for, civilization. And obviously Celestia didn't like that because they like having control over the civilization.
Sure.
But as to like who fired first is very ambiguous. It's because obviously Khaenri'ah has all this crazy technology and machinery, so you could make an argument that they attacked first.
Yeah, my personal theory is that Khaenri'ah did shoot first. Really, Ella.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can hear my cat.
We can.
Oh my. See, this is why I was on push to talk before. But as I was saying, my personal theory is that Khaenri'ah did shoot first, but it was as like a preventative measure because they had seen Celestia take down civilizations that got too advanced before. And they were like, we need to keep ourselves safe. And
Like,
it backfired completely.
We know that people went from Salvin Dagnir to Khaenri'ah. So there very much were people who had seen firsthand what Celestia could do that were living in Khaenri'ah. I think it's kind of funny that like Khaenri'ah probably thought they were strong enough to take Celestia, which is why they would have fired first, and then it just
backfired horribly.
It did not work. It was not a good idea.
I mean, it could be that Khaenri'ah fired the first shot as a preventative measure. I don't know what that first shot would consist of, but it could also be that to like make it more morally gray, as with the whole theme of Genshin, that Celestia escalated the entire thing by just nuking the civilization, which is like not how you respond to a preventative shot, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, for the people asking for a cat cam, I will post pictures of her in the server after the stream.
What else? Would a Rhine-Daughter be cursed like Dainsleif? I mean, we don't know that she's not cursed like Dainsleif. Honestly, if she's still alive, I think it would almost make sense for her to be cursed to be immortal. But it also wouldn't make sense for her to be cursed to be immortal because Celestia very clearly wants her dead. So
I bet she actually achieved immortality just like through her alchemy.
She achieved immortality out of spite. Go, girl boss, go.
She's alive.
I mean, she does hand Albedo like the book, like magnum opus, and it's like that probably points to that she has achieved the magnum opus.
That's true.
I love Albedo. If you guys didn't know.
Philosopher's Stone, immortality. Yeah. So honestly, something along that line I can see.
Yeah. Because like there's this whole ongoing thing with like her name being Gold or Rhine-Daughter and Albedo and all of that. That's all just tied up in the creation of the Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, I remember I tweeted about the Philosopher's Stone once. I have to dig it up again, but it basically relates to like the Philosopher's Stone is well known to like make gold and like the elixir of immortality and stuff. But I also remembered that one of the powers of the Philosopher's Stone was to create a homunculus, which is basically what Albedo is.
Mm-hmm.
Probably worth bringing up that Khaenri'ahs brought a ruined guard with them to steal before Sun and Moon. Yeah, Khaenri'ahs were definitely confrontational at best. They seem to honestly be pretty aggressive and hostile, which, like, they were kind of extreme, all things considered. Like, the people of Enkanomiya sort of knew the truth of the world and were content to stay safe knowing the truth of the world, whereas the people in Khaenri'ah were willing to risk danger to tell people, which is like where the fault between the two nations came. And I think Enkanomiyans definitely saw Khaenri'ah people as dangerous, which is kind of interesting.
I don't
That
remember what happens in that quest. Does Khaenri'ah successfully steal before Sun and Moon, or do the Enkanomiyans keep it?
You find
You
the book
find it.
underneath. You find the book underneath the ruin guard that Ante took down by himself.
Yeah.
Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to Ante, whose name I keep thinking is Entei. I like Pokemon.
Same.
Yeah. There's also like I think the fact that there's so many ruin guards in Enkanomiya is interesting because we haven't seen any evidence of Enkanomiya manufacturing ruin mobs. We know they were doing experiments on the V-Shaps, and that sort of seems to be where their experimental focus was headed. So, like my personal theory on all the ruin guards being there is that after they moved up to the surface, Khaenri'ah probably had a field day. Like they went all over Enkanomiya. They probably took a ton of stuff, research, books, all that stuff. Like the libraries look ransacked. When you go in them, like my first thought when I walked in here was like, oh my god, there was a fight in the library. Which doesn't really make sense because a lot of the decay in Enkanomiya, it's not the destruction sort of decay that you see in Salvandagnir. It's just erosion. If that makes sense. Like the buildings have not broken down to the same degree. So it's just like the natural course of erosion over time. But then the library just looks so destroyed in comparison to everything.
Yeah, but then that also begs the question: what did they take? I mean,
Exactly.
the rest of the 4 books to be in Enkanomiya, like I'm not sure what's before Sun and Moon if like it's under a ruin guard and stuff, but for the rest of the 4 books, like the stuff about the baptismal Vishaps and like the riddles and stuff, like that surely would be valuable stuff for Khaenri'ah to take too, but it's still there.
There's also, I mean, multiple copies of books can exist. So there's nothing saying that Enkanomiya couldn't have still had copies of these books in their libraries. That there could be copies that were taken by Khaenri'ah, but they might still have a copy there.
Yeah. Is the
On the
Chalk
topic
Dainsley
of-
for first? Oh, sorry, I was reading something from one of the channels.
Yeah, what's up?
It's okay. I was just gonna say on the topic of weird monsters existing in Enkanomiya. I mean, we know the V-Shaps have been there for a very long time, but one person traveled with like another hero that Watatsumi Island sent down at some point, and there's these like scribbled notes in the beginning of the cavern, like before you reach the city of Enkanomiya, and it basically says, "The cleric from the Sangonomiya shrine convinced us to spare them," talking about the V-Shaps. "As it turns out, the people of Watatsumi were feeding these creatures when they threw food offerings into the moon-bathed deep." And this was like on the point that the V-Shaps were like way more active all of a sudden. So yeah, it's really interesting to think that Watatsumi Island has been feeding the V-Shaps and keeping them
Yeah.
alive and like letting them exist.
Yeah, they kept them alive to experiment on them, which is interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, like even now, like they're giving them food offerings to like feed them,
Yeah.
and they want to return Enkanomiya to them. That's what
Okay,
the
but
notes
talking
say.
about the Bishop experiments, can we talk about how apparently there was one that was able to mimic human speech on the level of like a 12-year-old?
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Imagine speaking to a
Welcome me.
bishop that's not like aged to her.
I know. Like you see, you're walking around and you see a lizard and it starts speaking. I'd pee my pants. Like,
and then they talk about like Vishap people, like Vishaps who can straight up mimic people entirely. And at this point, I'm fully convinced that Kokomi is just legitimately just a Vishap.
a lizard. Yeah. Kokomi, there's no way Kokomi is not. And there's also one of the books talks about like the primordial dragon, the primordial water dragon will be reborn as a human, and then Kokomi's constellation is freaking sleeping dragon. Like
yeah, that's touched
not
on
even subtle.
That's
touched
the
on
most
in the
all waiting to
research
happen.
notes and then elaborated on further in volume 4 of the Enkanomiya stuff. The Byakuya Koku collection.
Yeah.
But yeah. yeah, I'm just fully convinced that Kokomi is just a bishop.
Yeah, Kokomi is a non-human at best. Libraries, robbery, and possible copies existing. Why do they have to hide a painting mirror that just drops you into what looks like a second hidden area? Do they actually need to hide stuff? What are they hiding? The book Urabashi read, maybe.
When's Enjo coming back?
That's a real question.
Enjo, my man.
Mood.
Is he in the
I wonder-
Spiral Abyss?
Oh yeah, there's pyrolectors in the abyss now.
Oh
I
man.
wonder. It's got to be different pyrolectors, right? Can't be Enjo.
I mean, there's more than one. There's definitely multiple. Illuminated pools and Enkanomiya. Okay. I just want to. I think we should address these two things. The parallel universe being created by Kairos, the alternate library maybe being created by Kairos, and the illuminated pools in Enkanomiya, with the ghost fish above them.
Yeah.
The illuminated
Thoughts on
pools
it?
don't. I suppose this is a spoiler for the world class. It's like the ghost fish lead you up to like one of those spiral abyss portals, and you get taken to the free corners of the map, the free locuses.
Yeah.
Yeah. They take you
I
up to
find
time tunnels.
I find it interesting that those are the only spots in the game that the grass is like green.
Yeah.
Like there's it's so weird.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just like speculating off the top of my head that it might have something to do with the Vishaps absorbing the elements from the ground. They could be absorbing the powers that kind of changed the color of the grass in Enkanomiya. The Vishaps could be like absorbing that into their bodies because you find Vishaps there. It's one of the few places you really find them roaming. Like there's a couple other spots where they roam, but they're like very purposefully put there. So it bothers me so much that there's just these little spots with these little pools and the grass is all green there.
Like, I'm going to reference Ashi again. But in the stream they did about Enkanomiya, like, last week, they were talking about this, and, like, how, like, this is happening right underneath time tunnels. So it's like the grass everywhere else in Enkanomiya is, like, dead, basically. Just because, no sunlight and stuff. But then this grass underneath time tunnels is all alive and green. And
Yes.
time tunnels is what those warp thingies are called.
They also could be, because you have those time tunnels, the grass being green underneath could be like a mirage of time. Like the time has been altered in that area because of the power of the time tunnel.
Yeah.
And you also
I think
see primordial baptismal vishaps guarding. There are like 3 of them per little illuminated spot, I guess. So if
Uh-huh.
it's like frozen in time, as Kaya says, it could also be like the Vishaps are attracted to places that resemble their original home.
Yeah, that's true.
Perhaps.
If Abyss Heralds can take human form, why don't they just stay in their human form like before the Cataclysm? I think, well, first of all, they're definitely more powerful as heralds. And I also think it might be taxing on them to stay as a
The
human because
reverse
it's not their
foul
natural form.
legacy.
The reverse foul legacy, basically.
If I recall correctly, those spots do have some light shining onto them. Yeah, that's basically what I was trying to get at. Like the time tunnels, and then there's light coming down from the time tunnels onto the grass.
Maybe the light and the time tunnels are reflective of the time before Enkanomiya fell.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I mean, like real life teleportation and time travel is like one of my very strange and niche interests. I think that like teleportation and like the Higgs boson and CERN and particle colliders are so freaking cool. Don't understand a word of them, but I think they're really interesting.
Agree.
So real life time travel and teleportation is like teleportation is like the manipulation of time because you have to manipulate where an entity is during a given period of time. And we sort of see this with electrons and that they have an ability to quote unquote teleport because a fun fact, there's this experiment called the slit experiment where electrons are shot through a slit to see where they project on a screen. And when the experiment is not being observed, they exhibit quantum teleportation principles, but when it's being observed, they behave like a beam of light, which is so strange. And this is like something that, you know, like astrophysicists and really smart people that are much smarter than me are, you know, trying to figure out. But evidence in the real world points to teleportation being a manipulation of time. So it could be possible that when we go through these time tunnels, we are sort of going through time to end up in a new location, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Space, time, it's all connected.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if you want to travel through, but like you travel through time, you travel through space. It's like, if you travel at very close to the speed of light, you're actually also bending time at the same time because you will stay around the same age, but everything else around you will age extremely fast. But
Mhm.
I can't remember the exact science behind this, but yeah, it's sort of like that. So that's the properties of photons, basically. So I don't know how it exactly relates back to the illuminated spots, but I think there's some relation.
Yeah. That there's like the powers of time have the ability to change the appearance of something and also move. Like I think a time in Genshin is definitely an incredibly powerful force.
Yeah. I mean, why else would it constantly be coming up?
Yeah. Time and the winds of time and the thousand winds and time. Genshin really wants us to be thinking about time.
Yeah.
What about the waypoints? Personally, I think Enkanomiya made the waypoints, or Enkanomiya or Khaenri'ah made the waypoints because the base of the waypoint, the like design of it with the golden accents and the lightstone matches the architecture in Enkanomiya.
I think maybe not so much Enkanomiya made the teleport waypoints as much they inherited it from their unified civilization because the waypoints are all over Teyvat as well. So they just
Yeah.
kept
Yeah,
them
that
when
would
they
make
fell down from the
sense.
Sky Kingdom.
Osmanthus wine tastes the same as I remember. But where are those who share the memory.
Yeah.
Khaenri'ah was made of people from all nationalities because isn't it too convenient? He looked. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Khaenri'ah is almost shaping up to be like a not like a refuge, but like a place where people who know too much go.
Yeah, I feel
so-
like it was stated at some point that people came from all over in the founding of Khaenri'ah. I don't have a source for that, so don't quote me on
Yeah.
that. But
It
I
feels
feel like
right.
it has. I'm pretty sure that was mentioned at some point that like Khaenri'ah, people from Khaenri'ah were from all over.
Leah, are you able to speak? I know we were talking about time and Abyss and stuff. If you have anything to add, because I know you're very interested in time. If you have anything to add, I know you were having difficulties.
It's okay. Not anything on this topic, probably.
Okay. I just want to check because I know you like the time lore, so I wanted to make sure if you had anything you wanted to add in.
There's a bunch of stuff I could have went back to.
Go
But-
back, please.
No.
Please.
Well, on the topic of waypoints, and someone was asking about waypoints. I said earlier in the chat, waypoints are basically just like leyline Wi-Fi connectors, and the piece of evidence I have for this is when you make portable waypoints, you use leyline branches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also noteworthy that the description of the ley lines is like, these are considered gimmicks from ancient civilizations, but you, the traveler, immediately know what they are. Like, what? Which I think is another point in the traveler belonged to or has been to that original unified civilization.
Yeah.
Actually, the description for portable waypoint says itself, it is capable of connecting with the ley lines, at least to the extent necessary to bring about teleportation. So it's literally like a Wi-Fi router to the ley lines. So funny.
Beam me up. Sorry, I need a freaking cough drop. My cough's acting up again. One moment.
I think on the topic of ley lines, actually, another interesting thing that I recently posted about was like the elemental malady, or like just a general state of problems with the ley lines. Because in the Eye of the Storm description, it says that the formation of an Eye of a Storm indicates that the elemental ley lines of a region are blocked, which has led to siltation. And there's a bunch of other stuff I can't quote off the top of my head that talks about like ley line flow being impeded in some way. And it just
Yeah.
makes me think that, yeah, like the traveler's arrival, there's something like really wrong with Teyvat's ley lines, and the traveler is maybe cleansing it.
Yeah.
That's what I
and
think.
like
I feel like
there have been a lot of themes of like the traveler cleansing and purifying things, and that's only gotten stronger since we came to Inazuma.
it's just
So-
getting
Yeah,
time on
definitely.
Sakura.
And it's so interesting that the traveler, the one from another land, like the outsider, is the one who's able to ease all of this corruption, because Celestia is also the root source of a lot of this corruption. Like I feel like Teyvat sort of exists in this equilibrium, and then the equilibrium was acted upon by Celestia, and now that skewed balance has been acted upon by the traveler, and it's moving back towards equilibrium. But I also think like this is very much like a things are going to get worse before they get better kind of thing. Like we've seen what the traveler can do, but there's still a lot that they will have to deal with if they want to, quote unquote, bring their homeland to this world.
Yeah. Thoughts on there being no ley line outcrops in Dragonspine? I think the ley lines on Dragonspine are just so fucked that even the mild distortions that cause ley line outcrops, they just don't matter.
Well, we know from the Abyss, from Spiral Abyss, that sheer cold is considered a ley line disorder.
Yeah.
So, and we also know that the Skyfrost snail falling killed the ley line tree there. So I think, yeah, that Dragonspine is like an anomaly. Everything, it's like when you drop your phone down a flight of stairs and then the screen doesn't work. Like everything in Dragonspine is so messed up.
Yeah.
That's also an interesting point that the Skyfrost snail kills the ley line tree, but the Skyfrost snail acts as the ley line disorder itself and spreads sheer cold everywhere.
Yeah, and also the bottom of the Skyfrost snail, it has that like blue crystal. I hope you know what I'm talking about because I'm bad at describing things. That same blue crystal you can find on moving walls in Enkanomiya. Like you can find it there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't put that together, but yeah.
I remember. Hold on, I'm gonna jump into my Genshin and see if I can find one in Enkanomiya because I remember seeing it and being like, "Yo, what the heck?" Waypoint. Yeah, waypoints connect ley lines more than they are actually ley lines.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm being attacked by a ruined guard. Ah! Now is not the time, sir. Stream chat. What if Durin's body corrupted Dragon's body? Yeah, I definitely think Durin's corruption also has some, like, everything in Dragonspine is just so
Dragonspine is a
messed
hot
up.
mess.
Dragonspine is absolutely a hot mess. Okay, yeah, I found what I was looking for. I find it, I mean, I think this insinuates that Celestia probably took over whatever was left of this unified civilization rather than creating their own kingdom / planet. They probably just took it over. And then there's also theories about this place that Celestia took over and the opening loading screen being like the Moon Sisters Palace, which is really interesting. That was the thing I was looking for. It's in the stream links and questions. That's what the Skyfrost snail looks like at the bottom, which I find so weird.
That's actually, yeah, that would support your theory because if Skyfrost snail drops from Celestia and the unified civilization before Enkanomiya dropped had that kind of like blue shard thingy, it would be like Celestia just stole from the unified civilization, basically.
Yeah. Can leyline disorders in Spiral Abyss be linked to lore and in-game ley lines? Or is it just for gameplay purposes and should we leave it to the side? I mean, yes,
that's a question.
It's definitely for gameplay purposes. The reason I said we know from Abyss is just because it's described as a leyline disorder in the Abyss. Like, because you have like leyline disorder and then you have like field effect and stuff. So we know that it's classified as a leyline disorder. And also the ley lines in this Abyss are so effed up that anything really goes. but I think it is.
Personally, I never
Also-
know where to draw the line between just purely gameplay and this actually means something. So, because this is
Yeah.
that kind of game.
The general existence of leyline disorders in the Spiral Abyss is probably related to lore, with like the Spiral Abyss ascending to heaven and like the ley lines in general being so screwed up all over Teyvat. But the specific leyline disorders that change every moon cycle. I mean, I think the changing of the moon cycle is also probably related to lore, but like the specific disorders themselves are definitely just to like sell their next character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nail floats, so maybe it's like plostrite. I mean, I definitely think plostrite, which is the that's the rock that allows like the jade chamber to float. Plostrite's definitely similar to the like the oh my god, I can't remember the word. The properties of the Skyfrost nail. That's the word I was looking for. The ancient civilization definitely built that floating island, or that was like the old. Somebody asked, or somebody said, it looks the blue thing reminds me of the waypoints too. Makes me wonder if this ancient civilization built the floating island for Celestia. I don't think they built it with the express purpose of Celestia inhabiting it, but they definitely did build it, and Celestia inhabited it at some point in the future. Sorry, I see that you sent an image, but I like. Oh, is this about the ancient civilization and the castle in the sky? It's a picture from the Dragonspine murals.
Yeah.
That could definitely connect these people to the ancient civilization, such as Salvan Dagnir, to the big floaty island in the sky. It said that gods in Teyvat don't really die. Is it possible to see Decarabian and Istaroth again? I think that Decarabian could have known the truth, and that's why he shut himself in a civilization from the outside world. I definitely think that's a possibility. There seems to be a theme of people who know the truth either being power hungry, as in power hungry to where they want to change things, as in child, which is a whole other conversation that I could have. But also they are closed off and they don't really associate with other people, such as Dainsleif. Like Dainsleif could very much choose to integrate himself into human society, right? He looks like a human, he speaks the same language as everybody. He very much could integrate himself into society, but people who know this truth tend to isolate and close himself off. And I could definitely see Decarabians closing off his city as a manner of trying to keep them safe.
Yeah, I could see that. Because, like, I mean, it's already stated that he did think he was protecting his people.
Yeah.
But his people were like, no, actually, we hate this.
I mean, but Decarabian protecting the people, I think, originally came from Decarabian and Andreas's clash, where Decarabian formed the wind wall to block the blizzards out. But it's also kind of confusing to me that first of all, that there's no other old gods in Mondstadt who vie for the Archon War, like the seat of Archon. So it makes me think that, yeah, probably Decorabium was protecting against something else too.
Yeah, Decorabium is definitely trying to protect something somewhere. Whether he went about doing that correctly is definitely up for debate.
Where's the calendars? God, I wish I knew.
There is actually an
Um,
in-game mention of calendar. It's in the Baptismal Bishop experimental records. All files preceding the founding year of the Watatsumi calendar have been destroyed, but you're not told what
Yes.
the Watatsumi
Yeah.
calendar is. So it's like,
And I also think the Watatsumi calendar is not aligned with the Teyvat calendar.
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we also don't see a lot of evidence for seasons in Teyvat either, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Teyvat flat Earth real.
I mean, yeah.
Because like we know Snezhnaya is just like kind of permanently winter.
Yeah.
And Mondstadt seems very springtime.
And like we've had multiple seasonal events in Liyue, and all that's changed is the decoration in Liyue Harbor.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Are
this
there
could
any-
just be like a modeling thing, like them not wanting to deal with all that. But again,
Are there any character constellations that match Enkanomiya? Oh! Are there any character constellations that match Enkanomiya's waypoints? To
that
Google I go.
I
constellation.
remember this coming up before.
yeah, that is not something I think most people would have thought of off the top of their head. That's a good thing to bring up.
That's interesting.
This was a huge thing a while ago.
With Liyue. I remember it with Liyue specifically.
And Mondstadt, yeah.
Mondstadt,
Yeah.
but I do have a reservation about these kind of like constellation overlapping, is that there are simply so many waypoints in game that you could like, with enough points, you could overlay anything onto it. So it's not the most accurate judge, but at the same time, there are interesting things to find.
You can overlay Child's constellation over the Daiichi Mikoshi and Serpent's Heart.
Interesting.
That
reminds me of something actually. So supposedly, I don't know if this is like confirmed yet or not, but supposedly all the Sun Children's names are based on like specifically Argonauts. And so me and a friend were actually like looking at a list of all of the Argonauts across all the different stories, like trying to figure out who's who. And I didn't know this, but apparently Ajax's father was considered an Argonaut. So that's interesting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god. The wiki only has it does not have the like anglicized versions of these, so I'm gonna try to decode these. One of them is Orpheus, right?
Yes.
There's Asclepius. Those are the only ones.
Orpheus,
Is Menes,
Asclepius.
Lycoris, Eon, and Philemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I
Children
also
of
saw people
Apollo. Okay.
talking about how there were 7, and then you could connect one to each element, which is really cool. The only one I know off the top of my head is Asclepius was related to medicine.
Yeah, him and Orpheus were the only ones I immediately was like, oh, I know who those two are.
I've been to the shout out to the Temple of Asclepius for being the prettiest place I've ever been, by the way. But yeah, he was like the medicinal god and the like the medicine symbol, the like snake wrapping around the staff, that was like not Orpheus's, Asclepius's staff, which is really cool.
Yeah. Let's see here. Risutayosu is Aristeus. I'm probably not pronouncing these right.
Aristeus, Philemon, Ismenius, Ion.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, because I was struggling. I was struggling to figure out who most of those were.
Yeah. In comparison to our year, the year in Teyvat is very short. For example, the Khaenri'ah destruction happened 500 years ago, but it could just be 50 years in our world. I never thought about that, and my mind is like expanding so rapidly right now. Thank you.
Yeah, so that time moves very differently. I haven't counted it, but you can like fast forward the clock, and you can see like I remember going to do Nengong's hand. It needs like a certain time in the morning, like 7 a.m. So I set my in-game clock to like 6:50, and I teleported to the Jade Chamber, and immediately it was almost like it went straight to 7 o'clock almost immediately. So it moved
I
very
think it's in game mechanics, 1 second is a minute. Is I think how it works.
I think so. But although I will say that like having shorter days doesn't necessarily equate to shorter years. It could be that there's more days in a year than we would expect.
That's true. Yeah, so I guess until we know how many days are in a Teyvat year, we can't. I sound like I'm fucking insane. Oh, I did not make this swear. I'm so sorry.
The traveler just comment on the speed of like time passing much quicker than other worlds they've been to, though. That's interesting to think about.
I mean, I think we at least know that there are 7 days in a week because, like, it's one of those loading screen tips that they talk about in reference to like weekly boss respawning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we have like seasonal patches.
Thinking about the firmament. Okay, so about that. Oh god, where is it in my notes?
What? Someone's gonna have to refresh me on the firmament, because that's just such a term.
Oh god, it's like a snow globe around the world, essentially.
Okay, I gotcha.
So there was this thing in the Byakyo Koku Collection Volume 2 about the primordial one using the eggshell, like using their eggshell to separate the universe and the microcosm of the world.
Yes.
And like that's not the first time the concept of a firmament has come up in game. Like there's the Chaos Oculus description saying that this civilization, aka Khaenri'ah, almost had the power to nearly touch the dome of the firmament, which is one of the reasons I believe that they might have shot first.
Yeah, there's also the firmament is also definitely a metaphorical. Like obviously, there's definitely a physical firmament. But I think there might also be a metaphorical firmament, as in the boundaries of what people know about the world. So saying that they were mighty enough to touch the top of the firmament might be twofold, in that they were able to physically reach the top of the world, but they were also able to find the extent of the truth about the world as well.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's an interesting take on it.
Ouroboros, a snake, is sometimes depicted wrapped around the cosmic egg that Phanes was in. Yeah. Phanes, if anyone watching doesn't know, Phanes was like a creator deity in Greek mythology. I'll Google him real quick. Phanes is a deity of light and goodness whose name meant to bring light or to shine, a firstborn god of light who emerged from a void or a watery abyss and gives birth to the universe. Yeah. That's from Wikipedia, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
Fane's using the eggshell to like separate the something and the microcosm of the world. Where like it reminds me of how Venti in the manga prologue describes what was it, Hangu, Ymir, and Purusha. And it's noted that all three of those deities use their bodies or like a similar medium to like create the world. And that is actually exactly what happens with Thanes, who uses part of themselves to create the world. So Venti knows. Basically, yeah, Venti knows.
Oh. Going back, we do actually have evidence for seasons in Teyvat. I take that back. If you read the description for the Favonius Codex, even so, the scale of the library's collection is now a fraction of what it once was at its peak, for sadly, the library once burned out in the Great Fire of Fall Equinox tragedy. So, Equinox...
We have a mention of fall.
We have a mention of fall, and we have a mention of an equinox, which means, sadly, Teyvat is not a flat Earth.
Well, it could still be, but like one with simulated seasons.
It's a flat Earth, but it's like it's like a seesaw. It tilts like a fucking seesaw. Teyvat is a seesaw. Explain. Someone put that on the lore iceberg. Teyvat is a seesaw.
Oh god.
Winter is also mentioned a lot, just from a cursory wiki search. It's mentioned in a lot of furniture, especially like the snowman stuff. Also, sticky honey roast is a perfect warm dish for a cold winter night.
Okay, so yeah. we do have seasons. That's good. That would also make sense if you're using an egg to protect the world. Your world would be egg-shaped, rounded.
Yeah, there's definitely seasons in Teyvat. Like Venti's character story 5 pretty much talks about the 4 winds, and the 4 winds are associated with the 4 seasons, both in game lore and like real life mythology. So
there's so much about wind, and I also know people were talking about how wind was very audible and present in the just in Enkanomiya in general.
I wrote a thread about that.
Yeah.
In a different context, like last year.
Wind. The Abyss Ice Bridge to Inazuma.
It's actually viable, because how else would you bring like a bunch of ruin guards and like a whole ass ruin grader to like Inazuma?
Or they went underground.
True, but yeah, actually that makes sense. But also the idea of the Abyss ice bridging with Kaya's help is also very funny.
So that's why Kaya can ice bridge.
As for Teyvat not having seasons in game, it's probably just a game storage thing. Genshin is already as big as it is. Can you imagine if we had a different season look for every single region? The game would be 4 times as big as it is. That would just be impractical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's something to say about Mondstadt though, because Venti does control the weather there, so it's like nice all year round.
Someone sent a link to Horai, which is Greek mythology. The Horai or Horus were goddesses of the seasons and natural portions of time.
It all comes back to time.
It all comes back to time. It's insane. Horai were originally the personifications of nature in its different seasonal aspects, but in later times they were regarded as goddesses of order in general and natural justice. They bring and bestow ripeness. They come and go in accordance with the firm law of periodicities of nature and of life, Karl Khaenri'ah observed. Hora means the correct moment. Kairos means the correct moment.
Interesting.
Kairos also means weather in modern day Greek.
Yeah. And there's 3 of them, which could be the other 3 shades, the other 3 winds, if Kairos was one.
That's what I think. 4 cardinal directions. Everything is like, it always comes back. And Norse mythology really takes the 4 winds thing and connects them to the world tree in like a meaningful way. That would make sense if the world tree of Teyvat is the Irminsul tree.
Yeah.
There's also like a rule of 7 and 5. I really want to like write about cadency at some time.
One moment. Nonnus in his Dionysiasia mentions a distinct set of 4 Horai, the daughters of Helios. Quintus Marinus also attributes the Horai as the daughters of Helios and Selene, which is the moon, the daughters of sun and moon. Describes them as the handmaidens of Hera. These 4 are listed as Aar, Theros, Thinatheron, and Chemon. Kheimon. Well, we sure KHE before it gets it. I'm going on a Wikipedia deep dive right now. Sorry.
Oh boy.
So guys, we have about 10 minutes left on the stream. Do you guys have any like last minute questions for any of us, all of us? Or does anyone want to speak?
Yeah, if you have things to add.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say unless like somebody asks a question that I can respond to.
Yeah. What do
She's
y'all
gonna
think
take
Sarita
on
is gonna do
Celestia.
with the Nasu? That's I don't think that's a question that could be answered in 10 minutes. Could Durin be a primordial? Yeah, Durin was an experiment, right?
Yeah.
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 There's also a trash
He
compactor for the first albedo.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Sarita's gonna have a magical girl transformation and go fight Celestia.
They're gonna play a game of like actual chess. And
Is
it's gonna
this
be
the
very
start of the
anticlimactic.
Bennett is the Fanes theory? Oh my god, Bennett is the Fanes. So true.
How did Aloy get here? We have no idea.
Probably.
Aloy is a crossover. It should be disregarded, or this is gonna get so confusing.
Yeah.
What do you think about the connection between dust and death? I think dust and death. I feel like dust. You know how there's like sayings of like from the earth we came, from the earth we must return. I think dust is that metaphorical earth because it seems to be used as sort of like a stand-in for like ground or earth a lot.
See, when you put the words
I have
dust
something to
and
say.
death together, my brain just immediately thinks like ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Yeah, which is literally one of Albedo's death lines. What I have to say about this is that I'm pretty sure dust is what happens when life dies. It returns to the earth, becomes this dust. And then what Albedo does with alchemy is he literally turns this dust back into life, like gives it life again. Like it's life reborn. It's not even like new creation of life. It's just rebirthing old life that's in the dust. So there's just this cycle of like life going to death, going to life.
Dust is definitely an overarching metaphor in that like obviously it's like Guizhang and dust, and Guizhang has a lot more connections than we probably think she does, because she's described as this like great smart researcher who researched all of this technology and knew about it. Yes, I remember being asked to talk about this actually. It's coming back to me now. How Guizhang could have connections to Khaenri'ah through the metaphor of dust and technology because she created all of this technology, and the memory of dust could have something to do with like Ruin Guard cores.
Yeah, and it's made even more suspicious by the fact that Guizhong just dies, and we don't even know how. Like, we just have the final conversation in one of the Geo 5-star set. Like, can't remember which one it says. It might be Memory of Dust, but it's just her final conversation, and I think it says she just turns to dust, and it's like,
Yeah.
why did you die?
Yeah. It's not because I mean it happened during the Archon War, but the Archon War very much could just be a cover. Something else could have come in when the village was being attacked and killed her. Memories of dust is like the memories of the dead. That could be very possible.
Pretty sure it's like that. Like if life and ambitions and dreams and memories all flow through the ley lines, and life is birthed from the ley lines. It's like when you die, you also return to the ley lines. Everything connects to the ley lines.
All comes back to the ley lines.
It does. It comes back to ley lines and dust and time, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that in the future of Genshin Lore.
Going back to Enkanomiya, because we should end the stream with Enkanomiya.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting is that there's like ley line disorders in Enkanomiya. But the thing is that Enkanomiya is also in the Abyss, and Child says that the Abyss is the like fissures
location between the fissures, the great
roots
roots of the tree.
So it's like,
yeah.
How are there ley line disorders if the tree's not there? Which is why I think the enlightenment that Abaraku gained from the goddess of time was actually related to the ley lines growing in Enkanomiya. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's why I
think. Yeah. I see that. Oh my god. This has been so fun. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Time flies.
I think we're probably going to start wrapping up soon, but like thank you everyone for joining us. That was really fun. Oh my gosh, I hope we could do something like this again soon. I would be so down to just sit and talk about lore for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, this was fun.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you, the staff, for setting this up. Thank you, Lance, for streaming Wind Trace in the background the entire time we've been talking. You are the realist.
Oh, I wasn't even watching the stream. I'm sorry.
I checked it every now and then just to look at the chat. Don't forget the cat pics. Remember, you did promise cat pics.
I will send cat pics.
Remember, we asked the cat questions.
Yeah, I can't send cat pics right now because I'm currently using my phone to be in this voice chat.
I'm gonna start lore streaming soon. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I probably will as well.
Yeah, I want to get into making lore videos, but I don't know where to start. It feels like everybody's already kind of covered everything I could talk about.
That's the fun of it. You get to talk about your own theories. If that's, I think that's all for today. That's all, folks. Yeah, thank you again for joining us and giving us so many brainworms and cool questions to talk about. Please share your theories. I can't speak for everyone, but I know I'm super excited to see people's theories all the time. Like, my Discord DMs are open. Send me your theories, please. I always want to talk about Genshin lore.
People ping me on Twitter all the time, but please feel free.
Yeah, like, ping me on Twitter. My Twitter and Discord DMs are open for this reason. Come talk to me about lore. I love lore so much.
Just yell at me. Anything that's lore related, I will listen.
Really
Yeah.
surprised with the turnout too. There's a lot of people here. I recognize a lot of usernames from Twitter. It's nice to see some like mutuals and like friends here. So hi.
Every journey has its final day. Don't rush.
See, this is like the awkward part. It's like, I don't want to just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, who wants to play Wind Trace?
I'll play Wind Trace. Leah, you want to play Wind Trace together?
Sure. Should I stream it?